Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a special Resident Evil podcast. Today we are focusing on our favorite and least favorite BOWs throughout the series. The extreme monstrosities that you will see, we're going to talk about them from gameplay aesthetics, appearance aesthetics, see what we like and dislike, and go from there. So this podcast should be relatively simple. I'm your host, Renegade Operative, and today I will announce the rest of the panel. So first we have Immortal Brandel.
Hi there, everybody. I am back. Your favorite residential blue box god.
Next we have Hollowheart.
Hey everyone, I'm Hollowheart. You can find me on Twitch.
And last but not least, we have Feign Sanity.
Hello.
We're gonna get right into it. Obviously, I was put on the spot first before the podcast even started, so I'm gonna go ahead and do my list since I wrote this down. I'm gonna start with best. So obviously, top dog number one for me is Nemesis. I really like his design. The fact that he is a persistent stalker throughout the series. I think one of the first that will follow Jill from room to room and chase her down relentlessly in an attempt to try to kill her. It was also cool that this BOW was wielding rocket launchers, trying to kill her. You could dodge the rockets out of the way, and it was just next level stuff when I first saw it for the first time when the game came out in 1999. This was awesome. This creature is just unparalleled. There's a reason why he's remembered as one of the most memorable BOWs in the series. So that is number one for my best. Number two is the Hunter Gamma. First appeared, ironically, once again in Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. Basically is a blue frog-like hunter, but it's very unique in the fact that it looks very, very different. I think this is based on frog DNA, so what they decided to do was give it more amphibian tendencies, and it has a special death animation where it swallows Jill whole. So at first I kind of was in the mindset of, oh, this thing is going to cut their heads off just like the original. I was taken by surprise when it did something different. And it came throughout the series, like, you see it in Outbreak, you see it again reimagined in Resident Evil 3 Remake, where it looks like a giant chicken. It's kind of weird, but it's also a cool aesthetic look, and I was kind of scared when these things came around the corner, and they're just like 10 times bigger than they used to be. For third, I will say I liked Birkin, his G3 form. It's simply because this is where he loses every semblance of his humanity. His entire face is now in his shoulder, and he's now sporting like some sort of Goro four-arm monstrosity, and he's ready to like just tear the player in half. And then he has his new head that emerges that looks absolutely sickening, and it's just, he's super fucking tall. This design looked crazy. I think it really stood out to me the most when I started scenario B, because that's when you first see it earlier than expected. And then I was like, holy shit, he now spawns on the train, so what am I gonna do against this guy now? And I have to take all my ammo and really try to survive. So I really enjoyed that design like a whole bunch. It's just a giant hulking 9-foot tall monstrosity. The next one is Chaos from Resident Evil 6. This is the giant boss that Chris and Pierce fights at the end of their campaign, and it was kind of unexpected and creepy. Like, it's this transparent hollow skull that you see, and it has all these tentacles, and it does all these attacks, and you're desperately trying to kill it over and over again, and it makes it feel like an actual threat, because I believe if this BOW got to water, then it would try to infect the entire planet. So it could not escape the underground facility, making Chris's campaign at RE6 even more dire than the other campaigns, because if this thing got away, then the entire world is screwed. The water supply is fucked. That's what I liked about it the most. It felt like an actual real threat within the game, as opposed to everyone else having personal stakes involved. So I really enjoyed it from there. And then last but not least is the Crimson Heads. They are absolutely terrifying. Just the notion of a zombie getting up and running after you, it's something that was popularized in the Dawn of the Dead remake, and they put it into Resident Evil. So The premise is V-Jolt, or no, not V-Jolt, V-Act, where if the zombie's down for a large period of time, then it's gonna get back up again after significant damage. And I kind of like that change. It's a bit of a retcon, really, but the way they added it in felt organic to what was going on in Resident Evil 1 Remake, which was expect the unexpected. These zombies will get up. You have to save your ammo, and if you don't, then you're gonna be in a world of shit. They can run, slash, they have claws. It's pretty freaking intense when they actually get up. So that is my top 5 best list. I will pass the torch over to Brendan.
The top 5 best. All right, all right. Well, for me, it would also be Nemesis at number 1, particularly the original version, because he feels a bit more dynamic in contrast to his remake counterpart. But what I love about Nemesis is that his appearance, his presence is highly based on your player input on top of him having your usual scripted events where he comes in and disrupts your flow of gameplay, right? I just love the fact that he can utilize weapons, because he was technically the first BOW to utilize man-made weapons, outside of his usual tentacles, blade weapons, whatever. So I love that, right? But to give some love to remake Nemesis, I actually don't like the pursuer parts of Nemesis, but I really do like the boss fights, except for the last one on Inferno difficulty. But that's a whole nother conversation. I really love that he actually utilizes the flamethrower as both a mid-range weapon and a melee weapon. Like that honestly blew my mind. It's one of the best highlights of Resident Evil 3 Remake. And this might be an unpopular opinion though, but I actually really like Doggo Nemesis, particularly the first one when he doesn't have his arm cut off. It's cool to see a feral beast Nemesis though. I just wish they could evolve into that a little bit better. But aside from that though, I actually enjoyed the boss fights for Nemesis in 3 Remake. All right, so for number 2, I'm gonna say Mr. X and the remake, mainly because I love how they took the pursuer concept from Resident Evil 7 in particular and just expanded upon it. This one, it cannot be killed, and he's super slow, right? But his presence is felt upon. If you don't plan carefully, though, he will ruin your day and ruin a lot of puzzles for you potentially. For number 3, this could be debated on, but I'm going to say Wesker from Resident Evil 5. What I love about him is that he kind of changed up the whole floor of boss fights and enemies in general. He's not your usual your usual monster. You actually fight him either via stealth, hand to hand, or keep a good distance with guns and go for his opening. And we take that into account with the Q2Es. Like, it's a pretty dynamic fight, and quite frankly, I couldn't get enough of them. Really fun fight. Number 4, this might be controversial as well, but I'm gonna say Norman from Revelations 1, the final tyrant boss you fight, the sea-looking tyrant. I don't know what it is though, but he's such a satisfying fight to pick apart and exploit his openings. Because unlike the traditional tyrant, he's actually borderline bulletproof until you shoot his heart or shoot the thing in his back, depending on which state he's in. So, and when he goes in rage though, you got to be on your toes at all times. Now, unfortunately though, the dodge game is a little finicky in Revelations 1, but it's so satisfying to pull it off almost every time once you get the timing down. And last but not least, I'm gonna go with Birkin from Resident Evil 2 Vanilla and Remake. Well, absolutely love Birkin, and this is kind of like a lost art in Resident Evil. That you don't see a lot of gradual mutation of the main monster that's trying to kill you, like with Nemesis and Mr. X, right? You don't see a gradual progression going from him just humble beginnings basically to being the absolute unit to the end of the game. And we try to eat the train and kill everyone else from escaping. Freaking love the visual flair of Birkin. Especially his, I think it's his third form, where he's fully grown up, has all his arms and whatnot. Love the design. Just beautiful. Peak Resident Evil 2 right there. And with that being said, I will pass the torch to, I guess, Hollowheart.
Yep. So I mean, first on my list, I guess it goes without saying, is Nemesis. I like Nemesis just for the gameplay value and what it adds to the franchise alone. When you think bioweapon, it's Nemesis for me. Just the monstrosity that he is, the rocket launcher, everything. I absolutely love him, and like he's been basically the face through even all of any live action adaptation. Like he's one of the main staples that they try to always make sure is included. Um, like him, and then like my next one, Wesker, which Wesker is always included in everything. I like Wesker just for the sheer like arch villain arc kind of vibe that he gives. Um, he's kind of like the puppet master pulling the strings in certain scenarios, and while I think they may have done him dirty in certain games, he still in general is like my favorite. um Number three is Mr. X for basically the same reason that was already stated. I like the whole stalker thing. That's always fun to me, is being trying to like outwit something that's constantly there. Because I like that with Jack Baker in Resident Evil 7, kind of slinking around the house. But yeah, you got to be aware of everything that you're about to do, because you make one wrong move or one like misstep and it's a bad day for you. That was actually all that I had for it, because my other ones were Mother Miranda and Jack Baker, but the more I thought about it, they probably wouldn't be considered in this list.
All right, so I think next up is Fame.
Okay. Well, I've been looking through. I think now can we use the movies? Because there's one in particular I absolutely love.
Sure, no problem.
Okay, from Resident Evil. Was it Revelations? No. Yeah, Retribution. It's the Uber liquor that is found in the Umbrella Prime facility in Siberia, which is just a liquor the size of a school bus that chases Leon and some other characters through the Moscow scenario. I think my second would have to be the Yavos from Resident Evil 6, mostly because they are pretty resilient, and the fact that they could basically transform into different things in the in what was it, China? Like you'd have one that has like huge arms, another one that would I swear at one point there was one that turns into a centipede. And I thought that was really cool.
I'm trying to think of the centipede one. It's yeah, there are the centipede Juavos that have the little tiny tentacle arms. So I figure,
Yeah.
yeah, those are the ones that you're thinking about.
Yeah, like yeah. As I said about the hands, like they use the arms to as like a shield to block your bullets and your shots. Some would end up actually flying and start shooting you from there, which would become a total pain. And that's number two. Number three, I would have to say Simmons, mostly because throughout the campaign of Leon uh, in Resident Evil 6, that man is very resilient, and he hunts you down, or you just randomly encounter him. Like at one point, he's like a centaur on the train. At the evac point, he becomes like a giant T-Rex. Then on the near the rooftops, I think he becomes like a giant scorpion-like creature, and then finally he's a giant fly. to where you have to kill him with the try to shoot it, stab the zombies with the giant lightning rod. And I thought like the ways like he was becoming like more and more unrecognizable. I thought that was really cool. And I don't know. Yeah. That was 3. Number 4. I'm gonna have to go probably with the Whopper again from Resident Evil 6, which is like the huge fat guy, because that man is a bullets sponge for bullets. It is a total pain to kill him. And at one point in the gun shop, you have like one in that one room, and he basically can knock down Helena and you, and probably kill some of the survivors. Number 5. Probably some of the giant BOWs, like the giant humanoids, like Ogre Man or El Gante, because mainly I love fantasy and they look a lot like ogres. And that's all I got.
Okay, so we're gonna move to our worst list, where worst of the worst exist. And I'm just gonna get right into it. My number 1 pick so far. This might not be in any order because I pretty much hate all these fucking enemies. But Sadler from RE4 Remake. How can you take such a simple boss and then decide to put him with even more bullet sponge tendencies and also give bugs around him, which makes the entire fight even more annoying than it should be? I never fight this guy straight up. I always just go to the store on each run, buy a rocket launcher, and kill him immediately because it's the easiest thing to do. Whereas in the original, I always fought him straight up. I always won because it was a method to the madness. It was always a way to beat him fairly, as opposed to not having any ammo and not being able to deal with him on professional, and just the whole fight being a gigantic and colossal headache. I'm sure you could beat him the normal way, but it just takes so long, and I just got so tired of it, and I bought an RPG and I said screw it. And that is not the way to design a fun boss. So that is number 1 on my list. Number 2, I don't like the moths in Code Veronica X, and the reason why is because not only do they jump on you and put in these little eggs and try to poison you, and the eggs can basically stay on like your person from room to room until they hatch, from what I remember. So there's that, and also the fact that they respawn in the area in the underground Antarctic facility, and I just found that to be... It's one thing if you could kill them permanently, they wouldn't be much of a problem, but the fact that they respawn is pretty much, for lack of a better word, it's ass. I hate it. I don't like the fact that they do that, and it makes running through that area very annoying. And the fact that you also have to run through there with Claire and Chris, from what I remember, you have to definitely go backtrack with both characters. You're going to be seeing them a lot, and they're going to be respawning a lot, and they're going to be possibly poisoning you quite a bit. So that's pretty bad. Bad level design and enemy design in general. Next up is the bees. I just think they're boring, to be honest. I don't think they ever utilized the bees well in any of the RE games outside of the guardhouse and 7. And even then, it's just tedium. It's not my favorite part of the game to go through, to be honest, when I'm replaying that game. And neither is the boat. So those are the 2 areas that kind of feel like down points to me. It feels like they really didn't do anything innovative with the bees whatsoever. I hate them more in Outbreak because you have to take an elevator and the bees somehow are able to hit you like a linebacker and knock you down. And that's just not normal. I know they're enlarged and maybe they should poison you, but the fact they could knock you over time and time again and you're in there for like 20 minutes, it's very bad. Next up on my list is Alexia, her final form. This fight is one of the most awful fights I've ever witnessed in boss fight history for that game, because not only can she constantly knock you down and you know, do all the stun locking, but if she detaches for the final phase, you have to use the linear launcher to kill her, and you just keep missing. It's not precise, and I understand they made it that way on purpose, but it's not fun. It could be a run killer, as speedrunners call it, which wastes time and effort, and if you don't kill her fast enough, you're just gonna die. So I don't like that boss at all. And I guess last but not least, I wasn't the biggest fan of T-Rex Simmons. I just feel like Simmons in general kind of runs on a little bit too long, but the T-Rex version just on No Hope, it's a little bit overstays his welcome a little bit. I like that they tried to put in some little set pieces here or there where he has like Leon jumping on the back of the car using the machine gun, but I wasn't too wowed by it, but it's low on the list because it's relatively inoffensive compared to all the other selections that I have, but it didn't blow me away. So that is my top 5 worst. Now, Brandon, it's your turn.
Oh, okay. Actually, you mentioned one that I fully agree with though, but I'm actually gonna be a rebel. I'm gonna give you 6. I'm gonna just not sugarcoat this one. The 3 main bosses in Remake 4, all of them suck. Mendez, Salazar, and Sattler. Mendez is more durable though, but I don't like the on rails part he has. It's honestly a complete downgrade from the original once he loses his other half of his body. Salazar, I don't know what to say about him, honestly. I just find him too obnoxious because he's just constantly on the move. And consider how the new aim mechanics in Remake 4 is, though, it's like more of a nuisance to deal with him. So I just shoot him in a rocket and call it a day because I just don't want to deal with him. And last but not least, though, same reason as Renegade, freaking Sattler, he flat out sucks. A huge downgrade from the original. Top of him having the most absurd grab animation. If your health is quite literally just tiny bit low enough for the initial grab on hardcore and higher, it's borderline an insta kill because you don't have time to break out and react to it. It's just launch on the frame of the grab, you lose a lot of health and you die. The most absurd bullshit fight in this fucking game. I do not like Sattler. I just rocket him and call it a day. Capcom screw with this one. I do not like him. All right, rant's over. Now, number 2, honestly, would be Hunters. Generally speaking, post Code Veronica, well, during Code Veronica and afterwards, Hunters have sucked. Because you got ones that just instantly poison you, and they're obnoxious. You got some that can stun lock you. And then you got some that can insta-kill you. Quite frankly, I just had my fill of Hunters for a while, and I'll be happy to never see them again for a long time. Next would be Evelyn. Not because she's inherently a bad boss, she's just the most boring, simplistic one. Because she's borderline on rails. You gotta shoot her face, shoot some more parts, and then it's over. There's nothing spectacular about it. Truth be told. Next would be the Eliminators from Resident Evil 0. Those enemies can go right in hell because they can literally stun lock you to death, and it's borderline impossible to get out of there. So no, I do not want to see those monkeys ever again. Next, number 5 will be Simmons. Yeah, same reason as everybody else. He drags on way too long. he overstayed his welcome literally 3 times over. If he only had like, I don't know, like the train fight and then the big bug thing, I could live with it though. But the whole dinosaur thing and whatnot is just, he overstayed his welcome way too long. And for my rebel answer, number 6 will also be Alexia Ashford from Code Veronica. If you miss your shot too many times, it's GG's. Yeah. She's just absolutely the most obnoxious boss fight there. And on top of that, the whole aiming with the first person mode thing with the rocket, whatever it's called, flat out garbage. They could have done better with that fight, honestly. That being said, I go on to Hollow Heart.
So I'm just gonna start off with Derek Simmons to get him out of the way. I just know he overstays his welcome. As soon as he turned into a dinosaur, I was just like, why the dinosaur? I know everyone has their own questions on decisions that Resident Evil has made about bosses over the past and how they portray the bioweapons, but I hated the T-Rex. I absolutely hated it. My second is actually the Scorpion from Resident Evil 0. And I think, honestly, I only hate this one because of camera angles. Because it's a boss that's basically walking in on you. But you're fighting against Resident Evil 0's camera angles to fight this boss, which makes it a little difficult your first time out. And I think that's why I hate that one. Salazar I hate because I don't think that Resident Evil needed a Chucky, and that's basically what Resident Evil got, was a Chucky. It was annoying. Just blow him up, get him out. And then Alexa Ashford is my last one, and just because mechanics are super annoying.
All right. Fane, it is your turn.
First off, goddamn, you guys have no love for Simmons. Anyway, I mean, I kind of understand, but anyway, I'm gonna have to go with the Ivy from Resident Evil 2 remake. Mostly because it's a pretty easy enemy to kill. All you need is just fire or a blowtorch, and that's all she wrote about that thing. But it was pretty interesting seeing a plant-based zombie, or infected, BOW. Second one is the Kipi butterfly from Resident Evil 5, which is part of the Majins. Those things were annoying to kill, as much as the Yavos version. I only got 4, so number 3 is going to be Evelyn from Resident Evil 7. As much as I love that game, I hated her, mostly because her main objective was just to kidnap people to start to have a family, and she basically brainwashed the entire Baker family except for Jake. And she's basically a child, or she has the mental capabilities of a child, and she was just so annoying. And then I'm finally gonna have to go with Be Molded from Resident Evil 7, because my god, those things were everywhere. And that's all I got for that.
All right, so I'm gonna open the floor up to honorable mentions, and we will end the podcast from there. So there is one that I do need to mention for worse that I did not, and that's a stupid leech queen Marcus. I fucking hate it. I also don't like when because you can mess up that fight if the leech queen gets you near the gate and it will kill Billy and Rebecca almost immediately. So you can't do that, and it happened to me I think once by accident. So that's why I always make sure to run on the other side just in case. And then there was one enemy I failed to mention, just the leechmen in general from RE0. Just absolutely terrible. Fire is their main weakness, but they can just simply barrel through it just because they have King Kong balls and they can't be stopped. So I don't know what is it with that game. That game just is terribly made, and the enemies kind of reflect on it, along with the eliminators and bosses too that are not so great. The only thing that's kind of fair is the proto tyrant, and that's it. Just that's it. And for best, I would say the original tyrant from RE1. I think it's just the first time that you see it. It looks like it's somewhat normal, and then you look at the rest of it and it's like, oh, the heart is outside of the chest and it has a giant claw and is like super tall and gray. So I was like, what the fuck is this? What are they trying to create down here? And it just gives that sense of mystery when it's inside of the tube. And then I thought to myself, when the first time that I saw it, it was so iconic that I was like, oh, now the tube is being drained, either by Barry or Wesker or something like that. It's like, just don't open it. And then they open it, and then of course the fight's on. So I kind of like the appearance, as well as the fact that it turns like kind of pink reddish near the helipad, showing that it's mad. And it gets pretty intense up there too. It can kill another character in the remake, and it really makes you think and fight to that last stitch of time before Brad comes to the helipad. So I really enjoyed the aesthetics of that fight a whole bunch. And that's my little honorable mentions. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'm with you with the leeches. Honestly, they suck. A lot of enemies in Zero does suck though, but the leeches especially are annoying.
I forgot to mention the frogs too.
Yeah. If you're by yourself, it's GG's at that point.
Yeah,
I think
the character can't break out of being swallowed. Also, go ahead.
My honorable mention will have to be Neptune from Resident Evil 1. The shark. Worst.
The rest is okay.
It's not. It depends. Like, if you're talking about the original, that boss is underwhelming. It's they try to set it up as an enemy. They say it's a boss, but it's you just like walk past it. It's like, what? Okay. It kind of reminds me of Monster Party a little bit. I know people probably never heard of this game, but there is a boss enemy. It's like a giant spider, right? You go into the room, you're ready to fight it. It's like, okay, it's time. And then you go in there and find out that the boss is dead. I'm like, what the fuck is this? They do all this setup and preparing for it, and you just simply go in there and it's dead. It's the same thing with the original Neptune. It's in the tank, you walk past it, you don't have to interact, you drain the water, and then it's dead. So it's so underwhelming. And I give the remake this, at least they decided to make it a puzzle boss, so that's something versus nothing. It's still, but I get what you're saying. How is compared to everything else in the game is not really the most spectacular. Anyone else on honorable mentions?
I was just gonna say Jack Baker. I think that he helped Resident Evil get back to its roots of some of its bad guys, and I really enjoyed the elements of having to sneak around the house and escape from him. And like literally you make the wrong move and he's your worst nightmare for like 30 minutes.
I agree with that. Jack was I think mainly when I was playing it on the highest difficulty, Madhouse, Jack was really. At first, he wouldn't let up. He was constantly on my ass all the time, and then that's when I saw the coveted he cuts off your leg scene, which I never saw on standard for some reason. Even though people said that it does happen on normal, it did not happen there. So seeing that was kind of gnarly and sick, and I loved every bit of it. To be honest, I think Jack Baker was cool.
What about his wife? I think she was probably the worst, mostly because that fight was dark, and her form was so disturbing.
Oh, the bee lady?
Yes.
Beehive.
Yeah, beehive coochie.
But let's also give an honorable mention for Lady D.
I thought honestly her fight was
Tall women.
kind
No,
of.
just her in general. Tall women.
Oh well, you just shoot her in the ass a couple of times. That's kind of what I did, and I ran back in the paper.
I shot her in the chest, give her nipples.
Oh my god! But she died way too quick.
Honorable mention for best girl, for best waifu.
I think he's trying to fab. This man's horny tonight.
I got one more dishonorable mention. Actually, it's a spider anime for Resident Evil 7. Those fuckers can actually clip right through your block if you're not careful. I think it's when you're standing up. If you block the initial hit, they can hit you again.
Oh, those things. Yeah.
Yeah, fuck those things. I never enjoy seeing those things again. Ever. Fuck them. I hate them.
I mean, although they were hiding in that courtyard pretty well, they weren't really that much trouble for me. It was just mostly the molded.
Have you played on the Madhouse?
I don't think so.
Oh,
I
I got a dishonorable mention right now. Whatever that Juavo transformation is, where they turn into the giant pincer-like beetles, and they grab you and then you instantly get down. I don't like that transformation at all, especially if they have the centipede arm and that on their head, because they just pull you in for a one-hit kill and you just die. I face a lot of that on professional, and I hate when that transformation happens so hard. I know their weakness though, apparently, because I found this out in Mercenaries, where you shoot them in the stomach and they'll explode. So that is good to know for anyone that needs any tips out there playing Resident Evil. When you see this stupid fucking Beetleborg and shoot it in the stomach and it will die instantly.
Let's also give the honorable mention to the standard zombies.
I mean, they're slow, but intimidating if they get you in a corner or something like that. I understand it's a huge staple though, so there were people that wanted zombies back in RE6, but in my opinion, the zombies there were kind of like playthings, because you could do like wrestling moves to melees and throw them, and it's just like, this is not really that scary as it appeared to be.
They are scary if they are in large numbers.
One thing I like in RE6 though is when they get mad and sort of jump at you. I thought that was kind of intense.
The redheads, I think they were called.
Oh, you're talking about, I forget the name of those things. Bloodshots.
Yeah, the bloodshots.
Yeah, the bloodshots were pretty cool as a dynamic. It's because I kind of expected Crimson Heads, but it was not really. It was just something different, and it was cool to have another layer of transformation on that. Anyone else before we sign off on this podcast? Going once, going twice. Sold to the bitch in the red dress. Okay. So this is the podcast for best and worst BOWs done. Clocked in at about like 40 minutes, but I think that's pretty good for a nice little bite-sized discussion. So we're gonna do our outros now. So you can find me on Twitter at RentOperative_. You can find me on YouTube at Renegade Operative, and on Twitch at Renegade_Operative. Next up is Brandon.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Immortal Brandle. My header, something, whatever it's called, has a link tree. You can catch me on my other stuff, other socials and whatnot. And yeah, thank you for stopping by.
Hello.
Hey guys, I'm Hollowheart. You can find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/Hollowheart. I think that's how it goes. I always forget the way it goes. But yeah, you can find me on Twitch.
And Fane, where can we find you, buddy? What is all your social medias?
Well, you can find me on YouTube at Fansanity and TikTok at Fansanity.
Awesome.
Ren, your turn.
No, I already did mine. I did mine.
I'm sorry. I'm tired.
No, it's fine. But that's it for this podcast. Next up is, I have no idea. Actually, I have to go look. But I know we're gonna definitely watch Death Island, and we're probably gonna talk about CGI movies for Ari again, and see what's the best, see what's the worst, because everything is out now. But we will see you guys later out there in YouTube land, and you guys take care now. Peace.
Get the fuck out.
All right.